Welcome to Tribe Triathlon, your weekly destination for expert coaching insights, triathlon news, training tips, inspiring conversations, and everything happening in the world of triathlon. Whether you're preparing for your first long course triathlon or chasing that new Ironman PR, this is your first stop for education, motivation, and even a few laughs that will help you become a better triathlete.
Ironman finishers represent a very small percentage of the population, so it's understandable that those outside of the triathlon community are in awe of what we do. Within the sport, however, Ironman finishes are everywhere. Stick around long enough, and you'll probably either catch the Ironman bug or succumb to the peer pressure. Every Ironman finish tells a unique story. Each one requires months of training, sacrifice, and perseverance. And while every finish line is special, it takes something truly extraordinary to stand out in a crowd of Ironman athletes. Some athletes chase records. Tom Shear recently set the record for the most Ironman 70.3 finishes in a single year after overcoming numerous setbacks and getting that record-breaking finish. Others make history, like Peyton and Cameron Henderson, who recently became the youngest twins ever to complete an Ironman, doing so on their 18th birthday. And then there's Nancy Goodnight. Nancy's list of accomplishments in triathlon is remarkable enough on its own. 25 Ironman finishes, multiple Ironman World Championship appearances, every Ironman Texas since its inaugural event in 2011, and a streak of accomplishments that grows longer every year. But what truly sets Nancy apart isn't just what she's accomplished as an athlete, it's the impact she's had on the sport itself. As an athlete, volunteer, race director, community leader, and self-proclaimed porta potty girl, Nancy has spent more than a decade helping create the experiences, opportunities, and the finish lines that so many of us cherish. Her enthusiasm, generosity, and commitment to making triathlon fun have made her one of the most respected and beloved figures in our sport. As you'll hear in this conversation, the past several months have been especially busy for Nancy. Between producing races, directing Ironman events, and somehow finding time to continue racing herself, tracking her down for an hour wasn't easy. But I'm grateful we finally made it happen. So let's dive in and hear from one of the most interesting and hardest working people in triathlon, Nancy Goodnight. So I guess we'll start at the beginning. How did you first get into triathlon?
Well, it's a lot like the way that most people go. Running was the gateway drug, but I didn't grow up. It always surprises people. I didn't grow up doing sports. I'm turning 60 this year. Everybody's going to get really tired of me saying that all year long. But in my generation, sports weren't really encouraged for women a whole lot. I was a very shy, chubby kid. We moved around like every 2 years. We were oil and gas industry, and I was painfully shy. And I didn't get right through, even through high school. And I was not active. And then I started getting active, a little more active after my fourth daughter was born. I had 4 girls within 5 years, and the local gym had a 2-hour nursery, and that was a 2-hour break. And by God, I was going every day. So then I started running, did a 5K. And then that, the usual path was like, oh, I can do a 5K. I can do more 5Ks. I can win a 5K. I can do a half, full, blah, blah, blah. And then I started running like the 50 states, and I really went on like a binge, I guess. And like everybody else, I got injured. My hamstrings tore. And so I had to spend some time on a bike and in the pool like Seabiscuit. And I finally said, if I got to do this, I'm getting a medal for it. And so I started doing triathlon, and I always said I was going to do one Ironman,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for a lot of
Famous
people,
last words, right?
yeah. And I said, for a lot of people, it's a one and done. For me, it really became a lifestyle. I've been really lucky. And my first triathlon was pretty funny. I borrowed the kids' goggles from the pool, and I borrowed a bike from the garage. It was rusty. And I love the pictures of it. It's hilarious. Got the goggles,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
wearing these shorts. Anyway, someone should have done an intervention, but I was hooked from the very first one. Yeah.
So that's funny that you mentioned the babysitting. One of my very best friends, her, Joanna Namey. That's one of the things that got her into it as well. She had a friend that was also a mom, and yeah, same thing. It was kind of like you have this childcare, you have this opportunity to drop the kids off for a little bit, and
Yeah.
yeah. So without that, I mean, I get it. It's so hard to work in all this stuff, especially self-care, especially for new moms. So that's awesome, and it's kind of funny that you guys have that
Yeah.
have that in common.
You know, when we're raising our families, people are like, "Oh, you feel so selfish that you're taking time
Hmm.
for yourself," but you really are encouraging your children in the same life. You're taking care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health. You're taking time for yourself. You need that. For me, it became an identity. I was a stay-at-home mom. But also now on my daughters, I've raced multiple full irons with 2 of my daughters, and all 4 of them have volunteered and worked for Ironman as well. So it's a family thing. My grandson has won the last 2 Iron Kids because I cheated, picked him up, and I carried him, and I'll do it
Yeah.
again. No pride, no shame.
I don't think anyone other than the other participants. I could see some of
Yeah,
those type A parents being like, "No, that's foul," and
yeah,
then next time.
yeah.
So you're going to basically you're setting a precedent here, Nancy, that it's okay to carry your kid in the Iron Kids race, and now it's basically going to become who's the fastest parents,
He's
like
fast
those
parents, right.
competitions, like the wife carrying competition they do somewhere.
Oh, those
It's
are
going to be
fun.
like
Yeah,
that. It's going to
yeah,
be who can carry their kid
yeah.
the fastest. So what was your first Ironman?
My first Ironman was Ironman Texas.
Okay.
It was, you know,
Wow. Okay.
I yeah, I live in Waco, and, so it was easy to do because it was, logistically, I mean, I could, if I wanted to pack the toaster, I could pack the toaster, and I have actually packed a toaster. You don't have to fly your bike, and I had a bunch of friends doing it. There were probably 9 of us that year from Waco, so I had a
Wow.
training
Yeah.
group.
Mhm.
It's one of the best memories of my life. We would have so much fun, and doing it all together made a huge impact on me forever. But yeah, it was my very first one in 2011. It was the inaugural
Yeah.
year
Mhm.
of the Woodlands, and we were all like, "We gotta go do this thing." And it was in May. That was someone's
Mhm.
really bad idea. It's hot.
So that was gonna be my next question, but I immediately knew the answer when you said your first was Ironman Texas, and I knew that Ironman Texas started in 2011. I also did my first Ironman in 2011, but not, at Ironman Texas. I was at that very hot
Yeah,
race, and,
yeah.
so I empathize a little bit. I mean, I obviously wasn't out there racing, but I remember that was just it was a
Death March.
bloodbath out there
Yeah,
of athletes. There were folks going into the woods just to get out of the sun, and yeah,
yeah. I
it
think
was
we did
bad. And
it
it was like that
3 or
for
4 years in May.
yeah,
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 yeah.
a couple of
Then they
years,
got better. Like,
and it's going to continue to get better, right?
yeah, yeah.
So what other Ironmans have you done? Have you done Ironmans outside of Ironman Texas?
Yeah, I've done Maryland, Arizona, North Carolina when it was the first year it was bought by
Yeah, the
Ironman.
beach to battleship one.
Yeah, man, I loved it. I was so sad they shut it down. I did it with my daughter. She was at Duke at the time,
Oh,
and
nice, yeah.
grew up, and we went up there and did it together. We also did Maryland together. I've done Kona a couple of times. I've done Nice, France, the World Championship there. What else? There's 25 of them, but
Okay, yeah, that was gonna say, yeah, you lose track of them.
yeah,
Yeah,
I can't even remember. But yeah, I've done a few, so 25 total. But like I said, yeah, Arizona. I've done St. George. A couple of those. So
yep, yeah. So of those 25, about 14 or so have been Ironman Texas, right? Is that
correct.
about
Yeah,
the number?
yeah. I keep
So
the streak alive. I'm a streaker.
this is something that I think it probably came up about 5 or 6 years in where there were, I don't know, maybe a dozen folks or so that had done it, and there were a couple women that were on it, but we're like almost a decade past that. So I know you are the lone female standing, so you have
And the
done
oldest
every
person.
Ironman Texas.
And the
Okay.
oldest of us. Of the 4, I'm the oldest, yeah.
Okay, so there's four of you left. Is that right?
3 men and myself, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
they're all
Yeah.
younger and all faster, although this year I was the 3rd of the 4, but, like, last year I was the slowest of the 4, but again, I'm older, so I'm gonna play
Yeah.
that card.
So interesting. There's a little like side competition there between the
Yeah.
streakers that
Yeah,
yeah,
and then, Jerry, my buddy Jerry,
yeah,
he
from
I
Hawaii.
he yeah, we have the same thing with the Boston connection where we're constantly us going back and forth and doing Boston the same era, time
Yeah. And I
frame.
was going to ask about that as well. So you have this craziness where historically Ironman Texas has been, I guess it's the weekend after the
Yeah,
Boston.
it
So
was early
Boston
this year.
Marathon's on Monday, and then Ironman Texas would be on Saturday. And you've done that several times. How many times have
Yeah,
you done that back to back? Double
gosh,
marathon in like
several.
6 days. Okay.
Several, and then there was only one other time where they were 36 hours apart, and that was when they were
Mm,
both moved to October during the pandemic, and I did it then, and it's a great story. I won my age group that year, 1st place, and I was like,
at Ironman Texas.
"Right, I want my slot." And so I had a
Mhm.
flight to
Oh, yeah,
Boston
yeah.
morning because
Yeah.
the race was Monday. And I was like, I want my slot. So I canceled my flight and rebooked it for that night, which you can't check in, right? Like you
Uh-huh.
at Boston, you have to
Mhm.
check in by 5 o'clock. And I knew I wasn't going to make that 5 o'clock, but as luck would have it, I also know people on committee, and I know that there's always a backup plan. It's like Ironman. If you have a travel delay, we will make it work for you, as long as you go through the right
Mhm.
protocol. And so I knew that I could get it. But so a committee member picked up my bib for me and dropped it off at my hotel. And so I got up the next morning, I got in at 2 o'clock in the morning. That was it. I got up at 2 a.m. I got up the next morning, caught the bus, and I thought I'll just,
So,
drink
did you even go
beer,
to sleep at that point? Because
waddle
I know with
through.
Boston, you gotta get on the bus to go out and
Yeah, like maybe 5 hours, 6 hours. So anyway, I was running a sub 3:30 up until the Sitco sign at mile 25, and I was like, "Screw this,
yeah,
I'm having fun." And so I ended
yeah,
up with like a 3:32 or 3:34, which 36 after Ironman was crazy. I mean, like
yeah.
crazy. I don't know how it's just gotta be adrenaline. But this year that didn't happen. It was a little harder
Yeah.
because this year
So
was
so this year was like that in that,
yeah,
we had
36
Ironman
hours.
Texas on Saturday, and then Boston Marathon was Monday. So yeah, you did 2 marathons within 3 days, plus a little warm up with your swim and bike at,
Yeah, and then the day after Boston, I got on the plane and I flew to London and ran the London Marathon that weekend. So I did 3 those
3 marathons in, what, 8
in
days or something like that?
yeah, 8 days and had a great time. London, everybody's like, "Which one was the hardest?" They're all thinking it was Ironman. No, it was Boston because I really didn't train
Mhm.
for this
Yeah.
one very well because I was so consumed with Dallas, like consumed. A
Yeah.
first year event
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
so hard, and
So
I had
and
no
by Dallas, you mean 70.3 Little Elm,
yeah,
Dallas, the
yeah,
new
yeah,
the new
yeah,
70.3 up there, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and we'll talk about that. So why do you keep doing this? What keeps bringing you back every year? Why keep the streak alive?
Uh, well, the streak is kind of fun. It motivates me for one thing. It's like, I hope I will keep doing this. I want to be another Natalie and I want to be in my 80s doing this. I truly do. Will I be able to do that? I don't know. But as long as I can keep doing it, I want to. I enjoy it. The training is hard. It's getting harder as I'm busier. Now that I'm producing races for Ironman, it's much harder. But at the same time, in some ways it's more enjoyable because I'm not feeling as competitive as I was because I
Yeah.
really can't be. This year, I really enjoyed the race. Like
Mhm.
it was so much more relaxing for me. I took the pressure off of my time. And so I think you're always evolving as an athlete, as a person. I love the experience of interacting with everyone when I'm out there. And now that I'm so involved in it and I've met so many people, like when I'm out on the course, people will recognize me and say something. And I love to talk to them and hear their stories and find out things and why they're doing it. So I would say the answer to that more than anything, I mean, I want to stay physically active and healthy, sure. But I really love interacting with people. That it's always comes back to that. Like it really does, you know?
Yeah.
S yeah.
How do you think your experience and approach to a race has changed since you've gotten all the way behind the curtain and now you're an Ironman race director? How has that, being a race director for Ironman, changed the way you race, the way you approach a race, your thoughts and approach to it that way?
Well, like during the race, it's hilarious because I'm always like, I'm counting, like, well, how many porta potties they have? And I mean, I'm literally,
Yeah.
you're looking at, well, how
Researching. Yeah.
did they put that arrow 45 yards back and then 30 yards, 15 yards? Cause now I know what the standard is. We're really strict about the way so that we're consistent and that it's done well. And so I'm always like, I see that side of it, right? I'm a lot more, I think I've always been appreciative of volunteers, but I'm considerably so much more now because I was the volunteer director before I was a race director in Waco. And so I have a true appreciation for what the volunteers are doing. But I also, it's really, there's a true appreciation for how much goes into it that people don't understand. And I wouldn't expect them to understand. It's like me understanding anything about accounting. I don't do that. Someone does it for me. So I just go, okay, well, here's my taxes. Thanks. Write you a check. Uh, you know, you don't know. And so now I have just a whole new appreciation for the underbelly of Ironman and how hard it is to get some of those permits and the traffic control plans. And I'm looking at it from that perspective. But also probably again goes back to people. The biggest thing I ask people why they're doing it because I have heard some of the most. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, well, I want to challenge myself. I want to get the tattoo. I mean, we've all, but there are some stories that like my most powerful moment as a human being was at my own finish line at Waco talking to a lady. And so now I ask people, well, what's your story? Again, it makes it much more enjoyable, but it also, I just like to hear about it. So
I think that's one of the biggest differences for me between triathlon and even just like standalone running. So I'm nowhere near what you did, but I did Ironman Texas this year as well, and then I recently moved to Nashville, and the Nashville Marathon was the following weekend. Usually they're like the same weekend, so it didn't work out. And I did the half marathon, so
that's hilly.
not nearly as crazy. And it was like a week later, and it was actually pretty cool. I was able to like I live like if you know Nashville, you know Broadway. I can walk there in about 20 minutes. And so the start line was like 15 minutes from my house. So I rolled out of bed that morning. I was like, yeah, I guess I'll go do it. So I walked down to the start. And the biggest thing I noticed is everyone's wearing headphones. And there were a couple times throughout the day that, I would just try to make a comment to somebody. And, I got my dad jokes because we already said I'm a dad of 3 and of age and all. And it's like, they just, fall on deaf ears because their ears are plugged up with headphones. And it's not like that at Ironman. There's very much that spirit of community. And part of it is we're able to communicate with one another. And, I feel like that is such a critical and valuable part to that. We see things people asking from time to time, well, why can't we wear headphones? Or these folks that they've been running marathons for decades, always with headphones in, and as part of their regimen and what it keeps them going and all that. And it's like, oh, I can't imagine running a marathon without music or anything. It's like, well, for me, it's so much more enjoyable to actually make those connections. And I can't tell you how many times, even on one given course, how many people finish because of the people they meet and because of the support and inspiration and that they get.
We all lift each
I've
other
done
up.
that with folks. Yeah.
100%.
And it's a give and take. I've ran with people before where I'm feeling good and I'll pick them up and they'll run with me. And then all of a sudden we switch roles. It's like, well, I'm toast and, they're pulling me. And, had we had headphones in, we'd have never made that connection. So
It's so true.
certainly
It's a really good
glad
point. Yeah.
glad for that. Yeah. So as we talk more about your kind of your career shift, but not even, it's like a career expansion, I guess, for you. Ironman wasn't your start in race directing. That's correct. You started with some or not some, quite a few races in the Waco area, right?
Yeah. And I still do them. I produced just as a volunteer. I never got paid, never got money. And I was fortunate in my life that I was staying home raising my daughters and I didn't have to bring in a paycheck. And, so I volunteered all my time and I remember I produced the first 5K that I ever had worked through when my ex-husband was in medical school and I helped produce 5K. I didn't run then. And the first thing we did was accidentally throw away the money bag and I was dumpster diving to get it. But
No.
yeah, that was back in the days of cash.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I started, volunteering for a particular race here called the Miracle Match Marathon. Sounds like a dating service, but it was for the National Marrow Donor Program. And
Yeah, yeah.
I was running then, and I saw it was, and I heard there was a race in Waco, a marathon. I'm like, how can that be? And we were training for Marine Corps that year, and so he said, well, let's just go run it as a training run. And it was terrible. Oh my God, it was so bad. And I saw the lady on the sideline and I knew her from my other volunteering. And I said, Debbie, what are you doing here? She goes, well, this is my race. And I said, well, you need to call me. And I became director of that. Again, as a volunteer, I think I did it for 12, 13, 14 years.
Wow.
It was a really hard race. It was a lot of work. It was a full a half, a 10K, a 5K, a kids, relay, everything. And it ran 26.2 miles of hills and
Hmm.
a cult following, which by the way, when you're in, make sure you run the monkey in Harpeth Hills. It's one of my favorite races in Nashville. Make sure you do that one. It's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
cult following. But anyway,
Okay.
so I started just producing stuff like that. And then I branched into producing the Waco Wild West 100 ride.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
started
Yep.
volunteering for that and I became director of that. And then I became director of our local zoo Stampede. Again, all just charity work. And I loved it. And I helped a lot of organizations. And then we produced a sports commission here in Waco. And I said, I'll help do that. I was the only woman in the room when they started the conversation. And I'm currently president of our sports commission. And that's where Ironman came into town because I was on the board and another person on the board with me was also an Ironman. And we both said, know, having an Ironman branded event in our town, we have a good, venue for it, but having the event in our town will give us credibility as a sports venue. And
Yeah, for
we
sure.
on a bid, and the bidding process just to get one here, it was crazy. I'd never been through anything like that before. And so we got it here, and part of the deal was I had to serve as volunteer director, still didn't get paid, by the way. And then 3 years into that, they asked me to be race director, and they were gonna, like, pay me something, not a lot, trust me, it's a hobby, but I took it on, and it was the first year, it was the year of the festival, a full and a half the same weekend. A very bad idea, thank you, Ironman. We managed, we got through it, but it was trial by fire, and, ever since then, it's just kind of, now I'm a full-time race director, so, for our which has been extremely rewarding. I've learned a lot. The way they do things has taught me to be a better director for my own events because I still have, like, I do a turkey trot here called Poultry in Motion, burn those thighs before those pies. I came up with that on a run. And I do
Very
a
nice.
Christmas 5K that's themed after Clark Griswold, and, I have a sense of humor
Oh,
with
yeah.
stuff that
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just fun, very hokey.
That's gotta be a good
But
one.
but yeah, I've learned a lot by working with them about how to standardize and how to do a better job. Like, they really do a good job at what they do, and I brought it back to my own events, so.
Yeah. It's amazing how the morning after an Ironman, you would never know that there was all that stuff there. They are
Yes.
and I mean, they do it every weekend, and there's multiple crews, and it's the same folks that are doing it week in, week out, but
Yeah, the carnies, that's what we
yeah,
call.
they're
Yeah,
yep,
I keep saying
they're
I keep telling the guys, I'm like, "I'm gonna do a calendar, Mr. the son of Ironman,"
yeah,
and
yeah.
where I
Uh-huh.
already picked out Mr. October, but yeah, I tease them all the time. It's a bunch of carnies, but
Yeah,
hardworking.
I know a bunch of the carnies, and I can't
Yeah,
imagine who's gonna be on the calendar, but, I don't
yeah,
know. I
yeah.
guess that's I'll leave that one up to you. So you mentioned another Ironman on, in the room with the Waco Sports Commission. Was that Todd?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then so you mentioned the Wild West. That's the Skittles ride, right? That,
yep,
yeah.
yeah,
So I did that one time, and so for those that are unaware, it's multiple distances, but, the year I did it, it was on basically the 70.3 Waco course.
we try to mimic it, yeah,
Yeah, and so it was a great opportunity. It was, I don't know, maybe a month or so before the race. So it was a great opportunity to go up and actually ride the course. And as great as the Ironman finish line is, at the Skittles ride, you get it's not like a bag of candy. It is a massive bag. It's like a 5-pound bag of candy. This is not like, something you eat on your way home to replenish your glycogen. This is
it's
like
like
you could do
Halloween,
Halloween for the next
yeah.
year
They send us an
afterwards. And
18-wheeler, literally.
yeah,
So,
wow.
which is a
That's
side note, Skittles are actually made here. Skittles are and Starburst are made here in Waco. It's the only place they're made. You can smell it cooking on
wow.
Fridays. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
my kids'
Yeah, I had
high school is right
no
next to
idea.
the plant. My kids hated it. So
And of course, the founding of Dr. Pepper, the origin of Dr.
yeah,
Pepper
yeah.
was, Waco as
And
well.
now we partner that weekend, the Wild West weekend. We partner it with Beast of the Brazos, which is a
Yeah.
swim race that
Mhm,
the sports commission puts on, so that it's a really good training weekend
mhm.
for everyone. So
Yeah, so I did that as
and
well. So that was
yeah,
the swim is Saturday, and it's they're both, well, it's all we have now is the 70.3 Waco, but same swim course, and then there's
exactly.
what was the Ironman distance, 2.4-mile swim as well on Saturday, and then the bike. So what is your involvement with Beast of the Brazos?
So again, I'm president of the sports commission, so I help with that. I don't do as much of it as I'd like to help with it as much because I'm consumed by Wild West that day. I try to swim it if I can. Like if I can get away and get a swim in, I will. Last year I didn't have a chance because I was just so busy, we have 10 aid stations, rest stations with Wild West that are all have
Wow.
candy
Yep.
and
Mhm.
peanut butter sandwiches. It's like a 100-mile buffet. But so we were busy doing that. I didn't get away to swim, but I do help with it. I help promote it and kind of work with our staff. We have several staff, and then we also have a bunch of grad students that help us with it. So I do what I
Nice.
can. It's just, but they don't depend on me day of because of Wild West, because that's my commitment.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you say grad students, are those Baylor students?
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
bunch of interns and grad students that we use as part of Sports Commission. We have a program for mainly it's sports management, but sometimes marketing as well.
Yeah. So for those unaware, basically everything in Waco that revolves around these races start half mile west of I-35. which runs right through Waco. And then right on the east side of I-35 is Baylor University. So like the 70.3 run course goes all around or goes around the football stadium and
It
all that.
used
So
to.
it's
It doesn't
really
do
cool.
that anymore. We
Yeah.
don't use that
Yeah.
anymore. But to be clear, I'm a
But
horn frog. So
okay.
the fact that they make me use the green and gold for the Waco 70.3 colors, I'm a little salty about it, but it's okay.
Mm, okay. Yeah. But at
Yeah.
least it's not maroon, right? So,
Yes, or
you know.
burnt orange. That would really be tragic. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Tri-Waco is one of my favorite all-time races. This was kind of my streak. I was nowhere near the length that you were, nor is it the distance that you were doing. But I think I did Tri-Waco for the first time in 2010 or so,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I did that race every year till probably close to 2020.
Yeah. It's a 16th year this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved that race, and I lived in Houston at the time, so for me, it was a 3-hour plus drive up there, but it was always one of my favorite races
Thank
of the
you.
year, and this predates your involvement back when basically and I'm sure you were there, I'm sure you remember this, basically,
Racism.
we would get about a 30-minute lecture
Yeah.
before the race would start,
Iron
and
Jack.
yeah,
Yeah.
anybody that knew, Jack knew what we were in for,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah. He was
yeah,
something
that
else. He'd
was
yell at you. He'd yell at you.
yeah, for sure,
But
and
I'm
it's
director
getting
of that one.
hot. It is so hot in July in Waco, and here we are sitting on the hill alongside the river, just wanting to
Yeah.
get this thing over with before it's 200
Dying to get in
degrees.
the water. Yeah.
And yeah, and it was just we're getting this beat down from Jack before the race even starts. But beyond that, it was great and continued to be great. That is actually the only race I ever won. Uh,
Yeah.
so I did win. I did win the overall sprint one year. I felt really good about coming back and defending the next year. And this one guy showed up, and this is speaks to you only can race who's there.
Yeah.
He won overall. He won masters. He won my age group, and so I was like, I got credit for winning masters, but he beat
Yeah.
me in all three. So it's kind of one of those like not as sweet, but
Oh,
that
they
was
should have pulled him out if he won overall. I'm the director now of that one. I took it over last year, and I used to race it. I always enjoyed racing. I mean, it's a hometown race. If I couldn't race, and there were a couple of years where I had injuries or something, I didn't race, I would volunteer. I've always volunteered for that race. But yeah, so yeah, if you ever want to come back and race it, I'll give you free entry. Like,
there we go.
just
Oh, this was another one. One year again. It's a 3 to 4 hour drive from where I live to Waco. I've done this every year. I know the routine. I walk in to packet pickup, and everything looks the same as it always has. I go to the line. Here's my name. Here's my USAT card, and they're like, "We don't have you down. Can't find your name." I'm like, I specifically remember registering. I remember getting a confirmation email. You know, let me find it. Let me look it up, and you look on your end, and I'm like going through, and I'm not finding that confirmation email. And I think what it came down to was I just remembered like a previous year.
yeah,
And so like I got there, I'd
I've
done
done
all the
that before.
packing and all
Yeah,
that. And fortunately I was able to still register on site. But yeah, that's the only race I've ever showed up to that I was actually not registered
I've done that
for.
out
But
of town, like far out of town, like a flight
yeah,
even. Flight and hotel is booked. You
geez.
show up, they're like, I don't have your name. It was in Washington State. When I was doing the
Wow.
50.
Yeah.
Showed up. I'm all proud of myself. I'm there. You're not registered. I'm like, yeah, I am. No, I never finalized it. It was,
Were
so
you able to race?
yeah. Yeah. They were
Okay.
really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It just cost you a lot more than it would have had
Yeah.
you
I
had you
thought I
hit
got a
enter.
bargain price. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say are the differences in being a local race director for the Wild West and some of these 5Ks and all that? What is the difference between being race director for an event like that as opposed to being race director for these Ironman events that you're now running?
Well, it's really different. And at first it was hard for me. I won't lie. It was difficult to adhere to someone else's branding and someone else's standard. Like even my voice, like if you were to read, and of course I've been able to inflect my own voice into like my athlete welcome. Like my welcomes are very different than a lot of the standard thank you for the community welcoming us kind of welcomes that you get. I have a personality and a voice, and I inflict it on everyone. But one of the things I had to get used to was that a lot of the decisions that I would normally make completely on my own, I really have to check with the mothership, you know? and I have to adhere to their budget, which I'm really budget conscientious because I've been working for nonprofits, and going from a nonprofit to a profit model was a big adjustment for me as well. But I also had to answer to, and I still do, I have people, they're my bosses, and I answer to them and have regular meetings and a more consistent structure than, oh, I'll do it when I feel like it. It's a lot more accountability, which has not been a bad thing. It's been a really good thing, actually. And like I said, I've learned a lot, but it was definitely a huge adjustment from just doing whatever the heck I wanted to do when I wanted to do it and my own way. And I had to adhere to their standards, which again, I've learned a lot. Very, very strict about how far apart I have to have the aid stations an exact, like we have this standard and you have to stay there. I can't say, well,
Mhm.
that's close enough. They don't do
Mhm.
that. Even the course, when I work a course, we have to have 3 forms of GPS evidence that it is exactly 13.1. It is exactly 56. It has to be within a standard. So it's a good thing.
So, as race director of these Ironman events, what are your primary roles that you are doing as race director for Ironman?
So operations, basically, which would be obviously getting the permitting, designing a course that is safe, fair. I try super hard to consider community impact, community involvement, and feasibility of the course. People don't ever always understand when you're designing a course. You think, oh, this is pretty road. Let's just go down it. It does not work
Mhm.
that way.
Mhm.
You have to, interact with TxDOT and county judges, and uh, in Dallas, I had to work with the toll authority and things like that. But you also, and then it comes right down to, okay, how doing the math of how many porta potties do I need? What's the best placement for them? How many generators do I need? How many forklifts do I need? When do I need them? And getting bids on all these items. It's year round, and making sure that you have appropriate, all the permits. You have to do the sanctioning, obviously, through USAT. That's the first thing you do. I do not deal with registration. Okay. So
Mhm.
see my sure. All
Mhm.
right. I'm not your registration girl. I'm your porta potty girl. Okay. Yeah. Remember that.
Very nice. So
Yeah,
did you make that or did someone give that to you?
oh no, I made it. I made that. And I had one made that says I am not athlete services, because people always, want me to help them with deferrals and all that stuff. And I have no access to that. I don't know who's registered. I really don't. I have zero access. Uh, and that the Ironman, the email that you send your questions and things to, Ironman in the sky or whatever it is, Ironman Waco at Ironman.com or whatever, Waco 70.3 at Ironman.com. I don't get those. People are like, oh, I emailed the race director. No, actually, you didn't.
I emailed you.
Mostly athlete services usually will forward things that they think are relevant, that I need to see, but it may take a while for me to get it if I ever get it. And so that's something that a regular person wouldn't understand. How would they not know that I'm not checking the email? I don't get
Right.
those
Yep.
emails. But my job again is operations, making sure that the water quality is tested adequately and that it passes the standard. And then they send me a great staff, like I said, usually about 60 to 70 people. And then I manage the staff. I have to produce multiple manuals. And that has been a big challenge for me because technically I've been out of the workforce for 30 years. I was a high school science teacher before I was June Cleaver. And so I'm not technically very good. And I've had to really work on that because I have spent a lot of time. I have to do a staff manual, a run manual, swim manual, a bike manual, so many kids manual, one for the expo, everything. And it all has to have all the information so that the staff, because they're working multiple events, when they come in, they need to know where is the storage facility, where is everything, to where's the liquor store, whatever. I try to make where they can find everything they need during their 4 to 5 days here in Waco, Texas, or in Dallas or in Galveston. So the manuals take up a lot of my time. I have to do the maps. Again, that's been very hard for me. I don't do the map that you see online. That map goes to some graphic artists that we have, but I have to work with the graphic artists. I send them a file and then they send it back to me and I say, well, this looks right, this looks wrong. And then I have to do it. And I have to really be careful because I'm not always good at the detail, and I have to make sure that I have other people look at it, make sure I haven't missed a turn by turn. Because to me, I mean, I do it every day. I run this course every day. So
Right. Yeah.
like watching your kid grow, you don't see it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I try to get a lot of eyes on it and have people help me, look at it a lot. But it's very, very, it's a lot of work, a tremendous lot of
Yeah.
work. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It's a new event. So like I said, Dallas kind of ate my lunch in terms of time commitment. But I have a really great support staff. I answer to a really great regional director and a really great ops director. I'm very lucky. They are extremely supportive, but they do hold me accountable. They're like, Nancy, you have a deadline, and I have to manage the budget, which is sometimes challenging. I'm not a math person. I'm not I've never really had to deal with that. So looking at going, okay, what's my expected expense on the flight tower? How many do I think I need? And how much is going to cost me? I have to project it and say, here's my forecast. So yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. So, and traffic,
that
forget manage all the,
well, yeah, just that little bit where you're shutting down roads and
that traffic
yeah.
control plan. It's the one in Dallas was, I think it was like 120 pages. It was a lot. It's a monster beast.
As those at Ironman Jacksonville just found out, that was a bit of an issue out there. The local residents didn't like having to stop for cyclists, but
we had that
so you
in
mentioned
Dallas, but it wasn't a full. So at least it was only half the amount of time. So yeah, first year was.
You mentioned having these plans for these crews that come in, because we're obviously very aware of the volunteer portion of the labor that gets the work done, but there are full-time employees. Like I said, they're the carnies that go from city to city, and so that makes sense that you're having to put this together because they were in some other town just a couple days before.
Right.
Usually the trucks roll in 10 days, 2 weeks out, but the crews don't get there, and you really don't even take possession of a lot of this real estate until the week of. So these guys only have a couple days to come in and do what they do. And it's amazing, between these huge tents that get set up, marking the courses, all those kinds of things, putting out the porta potties, the aid stations, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, without a good plan and a good leader, obviously that becomes a major struggle. And then same thing to pack it all up and ship it on down the road to the next one within just a couple hours. That's obviously no small feat. I will say this, I'm learning here, as I'd hoped. I did not realize that the race director was that involved all the way back. My thought perception was that it was more like closer to the race event and starting to be more boots on the ground. And that's what I was going to ask, like, how far out do you begin planning? But it sounds like you begin planning the day after the race. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I do the sanctioning prior to the race for the next year, so that we have a sanctioning number, because we can't open registration without a number. And so that happens even before we actually finish 26. I've already got a sanctioning for 27, and I have to do all the work to get that done. And then you've got to have contracts and secure venues, and you have to make notes and do after action meetings. We have all agency meetings with everyone involved, like medical, fire,
police, and
PD, sheriff's department. Like I said, Tech Dot, toll authority, whoever is involved, anybody who touches it. Like for when I was going to the Baylor campus, Baylor came. I was always worried they were going to ambush me, but they were great guys. But they're just sticklers, which is good because they're protecting their branding and their property. But those all agency meetings go on year round. And then you have an after action meeting immediately where you evaluate, okay, what went well, what didn't go well. So it is 100% a year round process. Like it really is. And it's been good for me over the years to see it, because as an athlete, I did not know. I mean, you just can't imagine what it takes. And then also I crew some events. I don't crew a lot. By crewing is I'm one of the carnies. Like I'm going to Eagle Man after next. And I love that race. I love working it. I'm run lead for that. It is very, very healthy for me as a director to be on staff and to be in the trenches and say, okay, I'm going to go out. I'm putting the duct tape out today and I'm pulling it up, and I'm talking to the aid station people and the volunteers, and, doing that ground level type thing. I don't do it a lot because as a director, it's hard to find the time, because you're going to be gone, minimum 4 days, usually 5, and you're very busy, and it's very physically demanding, especially the bike course. Bike course is very demanding to me because I'm short, I'm little, and I'm old, and the signs are really heavy, and you're lifting them up into the truck, but I do
There's
it.
a lot of cones out there too.
Good God, yeah. I have hauled a lot of cones, and I've picked up like the roadkill. One year I did bike course in North Carolina. I cannot tell you how much roadkill. that was it was crazy. Like every time, of course, the guys were great about moving the deer because they're so big, but when we
Yeah.
pull up, there's a dead cat. They're like, Nancy, that one's yours. Thank you.
Your
Thank you.
turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned the carnies. I've not worked directly for Ironman, but I've worked at I don't know how many Ironman events, primarily in Ironman Village, and we refer to ourselves we're the Ironman Gypsies. So you have the
Yeah.
carnies that are there doing work for Ironman, and then all the folks in the village. We're the
Yeah.
Ironman
It's a
Gypsies,
good term. Yeah.
and I recently had my first event back, and I told some of the guys that I felt like it was first day of school, and you would go to the first day of school, and you hadn't seen your friends or a lot of all these people for like 3 months of summer, and that's kind of how it was for us. But it was the opposite because I mean I'm seeing these guys several times a month all over the country, and then like Indian Wells hits, and we're done, and so then we don't start back up for several months, and then. Yeah, we're back on the road seeing each other all over. So yeah, we have the carnies and the gypsies, and yeah, so it's a very insightful peek back into behind the scenes and all of
It's
that.
it's a different life. I mean, it's funny because we work weekends.
Hmm. Yeah.
Our weekend is a Tuesday and Wednesday.
Hmm.
That's Monday,
Hmm.
Tuesday. Monday's usually a travel day. Wednesday, Thursday are travel days. So like Tuesday would be our Saturday, and it's kind of it is. I have to say, and somebody would laugh about this if I said it, but like Jacksonville, I did not work Jacksonville, this new one, but it was like for 5 or 6 days. I mean, I talked to the director because he's a really good friend, and he would call me, and we'd just kind of vent and commiserate about what it was like to do a first year event. Uh, but
Yeah.
but other than that, like my email inbox was like empty because they were so busy producing Jacksonville. They left Nancy alone. I wasn't what? It's like a total break. I didn't have to answer
Yeah.
any questions. They're like,
So
we'll
it's a
deal
nice
with
little screen for you when we got these other
yeah,
distractions going on.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges in putting on a race? And you've mentioned several things, and I'm guessing it might be one of those. But what would you say is probably the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge in putting on a race like Ironman?
It's for me anyway. What I find is a bike course. The bike course to me is because it's such an impact on a community, and it's so hard, especially out here in Texas. Like I was driving around all day in Waco yesterday. I've got some great roads that I want to use for this year's course, and I can't quite connect the dots. So I'm having to find, roads that are reasonable conditions as opposed to giant chip seal,
Hmm.
but also that aren't running through major neighborhoods that are going to make people angry. And just trying to find that happy medium because I want my athletes to have a good experience. I also want them to be safe. That is the most important thing to me. And putting them on a road that's 70 miles per hour, where there's not enough space for a cone line, is not what I want to do. So I struggle with that more than anything, personally. And I'm a cyclist and I ride everywhere, and so I see it from a cyclist perspective, which is great, but it does, add to some of the challenge. The other thing is just, again, just sometimes dealing with some of the municipalities, and not just municipalities. Most of our races are on Sundays, and these giant mega churches, you have to be very sensitive to them. But sometimes, and not necessarily churches, businesses, homes, whatever, the people will come out swinging and are very angry, and that I think I do well with that because, like I said, I'm a people person, and being an older female is probably a little more palpable than some.
We're all scared. We're all
Yeah,
scared of older females, and we
that's
know
right,
we know
man.
not to mess. We know not to mess with them. Yep.
But those are probably to me the biggest challenges is just trying to be. We need to always be super considerate to the community, it's hard because you're going to have an impact no matter what, but you want to reduce it and you want to be sensitive and you want to educate the public as much as you can ahead of time. And we try, but still they'll say, well, I didn't know about it. Well, we sent you something in the mail, but at the same time, I kind of understand that part because when I go through my junk mail, I wouldn't probably pay attention to it either. I'll be honest. So we try hard to just be considerate, and in Jacksonville, I noticed, and another guy did a very interesting thing on Slow Twitch the other day, and I actually reached out to him. I can't remember his name offhand, but he said he was disappointed. It's on Slow Twitch, disappointed in some of the triathletes' response to some of the Jacksonville community had written on that group page that they were angry. And the athletes came back with, it's just one day of your life and it's blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
And
get over it kind of
and
stuff.
get over it and kind of rude. And it's like, that is no way to respond because you did
Yeah.
impact their day and
Mhm.
you are asking something of them a lot. So, be grateful, be courteous, and don't be so self-centered to think that because it's your big day that you should be able to just do whatever you want. You are coming into these communities. So it's a balance. It's a balance because we do want them to say, okay, it is only one day. And I've used those words before. It is one day of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also appreciate that it's a lot to ask and we need to be respectful and grateful. So, yeah.
So now I want to hit on each of your races and dig into a little bit on these. So starting with the one coming up left this year, 70.3 Waco. Did you ever race the 70.3 or the full in
I
Waco?
was always the volunteer director.
Okay.
And then I was the race director. So I've never gotten to race it. Now, have I done all the different elements of it? Multiple times. It's funny, I live on the course. Like I live on my own course. I'm 2 blocks from the swim, the bike, and the run. So that's
Wow.
what I do every day. Yeah.
Okay. So you're right there in the urban area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I live,
Nice.
it's so convenient. I live like 2 blocks from University Parks, which is about 4 blocks, maybe a little less than half mile from the finish line. Yeah.
Which side of the Brazos are you on? Are you on like the downtown side or the other side?
I'm on the downtown side. Yeah.
Okay.
My
Nice.
storage unit for all my Ironman stuff and my other races is on the other side, and it's a very interesting storage unit. The staff gives me a really hard time. Like, yeah, Nancy's storage unit's scary, but it's way over there. It's in the middle of a interesting part of town. But no,
Well, that's a really up and coming part of town as well.
yeah, it's getting great. It's getting better. So
yeah.
hopefully my storage unit will improve. But until then, I meet interesting people. But no, I'm close to the Cameron Park, so that's my running.
Oh,
trail.
yeah.
So
Okay.
I was running the hills yesterday because I'm racing Rio Dosa this year, and that's going to be a Philly one. So I'm like, okay, suck it up, let's go up the hills.
Yeah. So it'll be exactly like that, just a several thousand feet higher in elevation. So
Yeah, and I just did an elevation run in Canada a couple weeks ago, a marathon, and yeah, it was awful actually. So I just won't run it
not
this
a whole
time.
lot of elevation training there in Waco. So what would you say is your favorite part about 70.3 Waco?
The finish line. The finish
Yeah.
line.
Yeah.
I think we have the best. I'm very, very emotionally connected to that finish line for multiple reasons, and then we don't have time to talk about them all. But it's gorgeous. It's historic.
Mhm.
It's a epic moment to get to cross it, and it's beautifully done. That helps. It's beautiful. I think it's just wonderful and very good with mine. All the volunteers and the volunteer captains are like my personal friends, and it's what I love about Waco is I know everybody. Like the guy who's delivering the dumpster, like I went to been to his kid's birthday party,
Yeah.
and the sheriff and I have worked together for I don't know how long, but and sheriff he starts the race with a sawed-off
Yeah.
shotgun. It's his
Yeah.
favorite thing. I love Parnell. He's just the
And
best.
for all those out of towners, welcome to Texas. This is how
He
we
is right out of
started
Lonesome
racing
Dove,
Texas.
man. Yep. But
Yeah.
yeah, as far as the course part of it, I will always love to run the most, but that's who I am. I'm a runner, and I think running through our parks, our Cameron Park is the second largest inner city park in the country, second only to
Wow.
Central Park. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a
Yeah.
really special place. It was deeded to Waco in the 30s, and you can't sell anything there. That's part of the restrictions, so that's why it stayed pristine. But yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
And there are some amazing views from the top of those hills. You wouldn't really think it, but yeah, once you and obviously in the race you don't want to stop and take in all the picturesque scenery. But yeah, the day before the race, if you're there, go up, go see that hill. That hill's legit.
It is. Yeah.
It's a climb and it's steep. It's
That's
not
what
all that long, but it's steep.
my
And yeah, it
Miracle
takes
Match
you up to
marathon ran all those hills. Like it would always run all those hills, and that's why it was considered the hardest race in Texas. But yeah, I
that makes
love those
sense.
hills. But they will
Mhm.
they put the tiger in the cat for sure.
Yeah. And then the finish line is crossing what was a railroad bridge and now has been
So
converted
yeah,
over to a pedestrian bridge.
and it was actually part of the Chisholm Trail.
Okay. Yeah.
So cattle when they would herd the cattle, from Texas to Mexico or vice versa, or whatever direction they went, they would lose a lot of cattle when they crossed the river because it was, they would drown. And so they finally built this suspension bridge. It's the oldest suspension bridge in the Southwest. And we restored it a few years ago, but it's still, most of it is, it's historically correct. And it's just beautiful, but it's got these beautiful bronze cattle
Steer. Yeah.
here and some cowboys. And it's just it's beautifully done. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really is super epic. I want to say the year I won, and Waco had the same finish where you would come across the bridge, and there's great. It's like perfectly spaced for the athlete to have a really nice big open stage all to themselves, but then there's plenty of room for the spectators kind of on the sides, as well. And I think the year I won Waco, that was when the bridge was under construction, and I had to finish on the bridge next to it, but it's only like 100 yards over, and it's actually still a traffic bridge, but. So
that's where
that
the
is
Wild
neat.
West rolls out on that bridge. That bridge is a beautiful bridge as well. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it's underutilized because it's kind of like the stepsister over there,
Yeah. And I should have brought it, but I actually have 2 of the steer. Do you have one handy, Nancy? One of the steer trophies?
I do. Just don't move. Hang on. I got them right here. I have a herd because that was the whole reason again to do that race. Don't move.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't say I had a whole herd of them, but I had my 2.
There he is.
There they are. Yeah.
Right. That's right.
And I'm convinced that those trophies are made by Aggies because the horns keep falling off. And,
okay, I have the same problem. It's like a hot glue mess. Yeah.
Yes. I cannot tell you how many times I've glued those horns back on. But
they're the best. That's so funny. And we'll have them again this year on June 28th. So
very nice. Yeah. Hit that up. What is new this year for 70? So I'm personally, because I am registered, so I will be racing.
Hey, great.
In your race. So what can I expect different this year than previous years?
So last year, we changed. The swim will be the same, right? Last year we changed.
Only so much you can do with a point-to-point swim there.
Point to point, yeah. The run I changed last year, which is so much better. I'm so glad. It's 2 loops, and it does not go through the McLean Stadium campus, which was great because we used to be held hostage by Baylor football. We couldn't announce until we knew, and so we're finally like, look, we're throwing the dart. But when we knew we had a home game, it's like it would be very hard to set up over there. Nobody liked running. The stadium's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, but the parking lot is a parking lot. Okay.
Yeah. That whole tailgate area and the gravel part. Yeah, that was not my favorite part.
To the sun, and so it's 2 loops, but it also makes it much more spectator friendly. We had a lot of fun with that last year, so I'm really pleased. So that will stay the same. I'm hoping to make some bike changes. I'm working on that. No promises. Hoping for a different course, but to be determined. The biggest change probably though is that Waco is now doing a remodel of their downtown area over where we had transition. I'm the only person in all of Waco that ever uses that field. I always said I was going to call it Nancy's Field because it gets used once a year, and that's for us. But, historically, we've had issues with it in terms of like sticker burrs, in terms of, flooding one year when it rained. I had to
the mud.
That was a day.
Yep. But, I got all my gear still has mud on it from
from that day. God, my kids had to spread the hay. I would had somebody bring it. It's crazy. But also we work really hard because people let their dogs run there. And so the week I make volunteers have to go out there and clean up all the dog poop, which is extremely unpleasant.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I bet that's a hard job to get volunteers to sign up for.
That is not as fun as handing out a finisher medal. Yeah. But it's going to be torn up this year. They're going to turn it into a building, and so they're tearing it up. So we can't use it. So that has been a big shift. But again, it's the thing about race directing is just like racing. You have to be adaptable and you have to stay on your feet and do what you can do. So we are going to use what we call Heritage Square, which has always been our supply lot. And it's where I have my Waco Wild West. It's a massive lot. So that will be the new transition.
Okay.
Which the advantage of that is it's concrete. So if it rains, it won't be an issue. If there won't be sticker burrs, and very unlikely there'll be any dog poo, But the disadvantage of it is it's a little bit further of a run, not much. It was 582 feet, and I measured it the other day. I think it's like 700. with a tiny little incline. Nobody get upset. But for us, logistically, it's going to be challenging because we've got to get the swimmers out of the water and the bikes out of the same, and then
Mm.
on the same
On
road.
the
They'll be using
same road.
Washington
Yeah.
Avenue. And then the run will also be coming out to Washington Avenue. So my site guys will have to shift fencing in between the disciplines. And we have to make sure with our timing. That's the other thing we have a chart where we put in the fastest expected speed and the slowest expected speed, and it populates every intersection and every, and we have to make sure that we don't have the slowest bike going out and the fastest bike coming in at the same time. And so we base how many athletes we put into the water on that so that we know, okay, it's going to take me 54 minutes to get all the athletes into the water. And then the first bike will be coming in, let's say I give him 27 miles an hour and the slowest athlete's going 13.8. So anyway, it's going to be a shift, but that's one of the things people think about either is we have to consider those kinds of things because we can't have, like, I can't have a swimmer coming out of the water and a bike coming and they can't,
Yep.
so you have to
Yeah.
really,
So those cutoff times aren't just about being mean and
right. Yeah.
elitist. They're practical, and
Yeah.
the
And
race
it's the
doesn't work
same
without them,
thing.
unfortunately.
Right. And in the cutoff times too, people don't always understand. And I hate doing it. I do the cutoffs myself when able because I feel like I'm more compassionate than some other people might be just because I've been an athlete, have had some disappointments, but it's also about permitting. We have to reopen the roads at
Uh-huh.
a certain time.
Yeah.
Ironman Texas is probably the strictest one because we cannot fudge on the Hardy Toll Road. We have to have our equipment off. And so we have to pull people if they can't make those cutoffs, and nobody wants that job, but it's, you know, it's an unfortunate thing we have to do. Yeah.
So my other question regarding 70.3 Waco, and you hit on it, is will there be the chip seal? Because I did it that year, and I will say, like, I think my teeth are still rattling from
Oh,
the
yeah.
30 miles or what, a very fresh chip seal. And for those
Yeah.
unfamiliar with chip seal, it is a very porous road surface that'll just beat you to death. It's kind of the opposite of asphalt. It's nice and smooth. It kind of has that same color, just reflects heat. Uh, but man,
It's
it
terrible,
is rough,
especially when it's
and
freshly
it's
poured.
yeah, and it's at its worst when it is freshly poured because over time it will kind of wear down some. But yeah, this was what, like, in
It
from
was 2
recollection, you
years.
didn't even know they were doing it, and then
No,
they
it's
just
2 years
showed up
ago.
and did it. And
And I was riding I ride the course a lot, and I was riding, with 2 athletes who had come into town on, like, a Wednesday, and I said, "Yeah, I'll ride it," 'cause I'm training too, I got races and everything, and so we were riding together, the whole reason I chose that road, and there was a video out there, when I first chose it, was because it was baby's butt smooth. I mean,
Mhm.
like, I'm rolling on the ground going,
Yeah,
"Look how smooth it is," and it was fast, it was smooth, and then they the first year it was, and then the second year we had that course, they chip sealed a small section of it, like, a month before, so I was really upset. Okay, well then that year, 2 years ago, I was riding it with these 2 athletes, and I see these trucks.
what are they doing?
This is the week before, right? Or a week and a
Oh
half.
wow, yeah,
And they're chip sealing, and I'm like, I stopped my thing, and I'm just like, I'm so upset, and I'm videoing it, and I'm calling TxDOT, and I'm like,
yeah.
"Nobody told me. You know not to do this. Nobody told me." It was awful, like, awful. And so last year, it had settled down some, but it's still there. So I'm trying really hard to figure out how we can get, I mean, all country roads, if, getting off of that major road is gonna be better, but you're still gonna have some, maybe not necessarily chip seal, but issues to deal with. But I'm hoping that we can get off of that. I also didn't like that road anyway, just because the cars are so fast. So to be determined. I can't promise anything, but right now I'm trying very hard to. If you're going to be on it, hopefully, if we have to be on that part of the road, hopefully it will be much shorter. I can definitely get shorter, but I'm hoping to get off it altogether. So we'll
And
see.
we'll just deflate our tires down to like 30 psi, and
Yeah, like, bring your gravel bike. I'm just kidding.
yeah.
But no, I do. I do tell people ride the widest tire you can, and if you have to do it. But hopefully we will resolve that. So yeah, I was out there all day yesterday trying to find. Again, I've got roads. I just got to
Mhm.
connect.
Yeah, there you go. Well, there's time to pour asphalt and just go out there with a wheelbarrow full of asphalt and make a way. So 70.3 Little Elm. It was a really neat event. I know there was a lot of anticipation around it. When they announced a new event in March in Texas, I knew the weather was going to be a factor. It's a unpredictable time, and I thought that it was going to be cold and wet and nasty.
Me too.
No one, I don't think anyone had. I don't know what the actual was, but every athlete says every race is the toughest conditions ever.
It was
I believe it, and I didn't do it. I did not race there, so I can't even like claim that as my own. But the wind was insane. It
it
was,
was
I don't know, 20 to 30 mile an hour
it
sustained.
it was gusting to 50. And so, you know, again, yes, March. So you probably don't know, I'm a pilot as well, and I have men's rating, so I've had to do a lot of weather instruction over the years. And, March weather can be very volatile. You have frontal weather. So that's just kind of what happens in Texas. But I'm like you. I thought the water temperature was going to be the issue. I cannot tell you how
Mhm.
much research I did with
And
USA.
it was the big story
on
for weeks into that
Oh,
race. The
yeah, I
water's
was like,
50
"The water's
degrees
gonna be
and
50,
yeah.
and it's gonna be, and if the ambient air is, you know, not," and everybody's like, "Oh, it has to be 120." Well, it's actually not that simple, and I had to learn that myself. There's a lot of factors you have to consider in terms of, can you have the swim? Can you shorten the swim? And I had a contingency plan of a shortened swim and a opposite direction swim, and, we all do. We always have a contingency. We always do. So we had developed those plans. We were ready. And that morning, I was out on the water at 4 a.m. with the swim staff. We have the best swim staff, and with my ops director and my regional director, and our swim lead, Gabriel, was showing us. He's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to show you how I look at this." And he had one of his staff in the water swimming in a wetsuit, struggling, who was a very strong swimmer. And he was showing us, okay, if I turn the motor off, I'll drift like this. This is what it would be like if the motor's barely going, this is a regular swimmer. If the motor's not going, this is a weak swimmer. If the motor, and he would show us what would happen. And we did it every way we could. We did every contingency plan, and none of them were safe. Like, I always when I'm developing a course or making decisions in all aspects of my life, I ask myself, would I want one of my daughters what would I want her to do? Would I want, yeah, my daughter actually my oldest was doing the very first Ironman Waco, and we canceled the swim that year, if you'll recall. And it was flooding. And I remember looking at the water, and I told her, I said, if they have the swim, because I wasn't in charge then, I said, if they
Mhm.
have the swim, you're not doing it. And you may
Yeah.
be an adult, but I'm not letting you do it. So I asked myself, would I want my daughter to swim in this water in this wind? And the answer was no. And that's the way I make the decision. If I wouldn't want my daughter to do it, I don't want my athletes to do it. And so, we were all in favor that that was the decision we made. So we did. But I was very concerned about safety on the bike, especially
Mhm.
for our, you know, not as strong athletes who don't have, and a lot of these athletes we had so many beginners, and they
Yeah.
train indoors, and they're not used to,
Mhm.
they don't have road handling skills even on a good day. And I was very afraid. Like, I was, the day after, when, Ray came home safely, I was really emotional, like really emotional, because I was so relieved that everyone was okay. But it was so challenging. The medical tent, we had to evacuate all the tents because they weren't safe with the wind.
Mm.
The
Wow,
medical
yeah.
supplies blew into the lake.
Mm.
Bike racks were blowing down, literally
Mhm.
collapsing.
Mhm.
And helmets blew into the field, and bags, and it was so difficult, and we couldn't have the finish line. We worked so hard for
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these plans, and we had to take everything down. We had to take the fencing down. We had to do, you know, the athlete food had to be in a totally different place because they couldn't be under the tent. And so it was disappointing that it was not the race that we had planned, but I think it was the best race that it could be, you know, under the circumstances. And it was a exercise in emergency management that I hope
Mhm.
I don't have to go through again, but I'm
Mhm.
very, very proud of my team and the way they managed it and handled it. And, were able to pivot and make the adjustments that had to be made to keep people safe. It was really challenging. Yeah. But
Yeah.
we learned a
And
lot.
I
We
will say,
learned a lot about everything, not just the wind.
despite all that, the perception was it was still a fantastic race. It was a well run race. And yeah, like usually wind is a factor that's going to, be a pain. And it's something we like nice calm days just because we like fast bike splits. It's not
Right.
usually a safety
Yeah.
concern.
I
But
was
yeah,
worried about
that was an anomaly. That was,
it really
that
was.
was literally one of the windiest days. I can't
Like
recall
here.
ever, and it was not like a windy period. It was all day.
It was
I
all
literally had like windburn because I was out there on the run course till like the very last folks were in, and I was in the shade all day, but I felt like I was sunburned, and it was
yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah.
it was just from the
Well, I was
wind
so
and
windburned. I was
yeah,
too. And the irony was the water temp was like I think 70 or something crazy.
yeah,
It was like,
yeah.
"That's what we're worried
That was
about."
yep,
It reminds you of, like, when you have an injury, like, you got a knee that's bothering you and you go into a race, you're like, "Oh, man, I'm worried about my knee," and your knee's fine and your hip is giving you hell. It was like
hmm
that. It's like, "Okay, that wasn't what I was
yeah,
expecting." But
yeah. It's the things we worry about never pan out, and it's the things that you don't worry about that'll get you.
all I can
So
hope is that a grenade doesn't hit twice in the same
yeah,
spot.
yeah, right,
So
yeah.
March
No, I
14th
think
next year, I hope is better. Yeah.
yeah, next year should be great. And speaking of another race that is very volatile and has seen everything,
Yeah.
I will say Texas got screwed in Little Elm, but the weather made up for it 2 weeks later in Galveston with an absolute picturesque day.
Oh my gosh, it was that
I
crazy.
don't know how anyone I know people said that it was the toughest conditions ever. I just don't know what their case was because this was like amazing conditions down there.
It was a
But
champions
Galveston is
day.
also known for some horrendous conditions, including another time where the wind came in, and I actually have a picture. I was in this race where the clock
Oh, yeah.
fell out of
Yeah.
the finish
I was
line,
there.
and same
Yeah.
thing. Like it looked like a tornado hit the transition area. It was anarchy. But
Yeah, my
uh,
daughter was racing that one. I was spectating, but I was like,
so,
"No."
given all that,
Yeah.
you're taking over as race director of that event. And that's one that's been around for going on 20 years. I actually remember when before it was Ironman,
Yep.
there was the Lone Star Triathlon
Yep.
Festival, and yeah, those were some of my first triathlons back then. But so yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of stepping into a legacy,
Yeah.
and I know Greg has been the director there for years, maybe even the whole time. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
He's retired from directing.
yeah, and so handing it over to you, and you even had a little ceremony there. Was it at
Yeah.
the cannon fire or
Yeah.
at the finish
Yeah.
line that
Yeah.
kind of officially made that your race? So that's
He was my predecessor in Waco too. So,
yeah, that's right. So how many times have you done 70.3 Texas down in Galveston?
oh my gosh, I don't know.
A lot.
Probably about 6, 7 maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
I raced it 2 years ago when the wind was so crazy and they canceled the swim and
hmm
600 people said, "I'm not doing this." And
Yeah.
I will tell you, in all my years, it's the most afraid I've ever been on a bike. I mean, I stopped on that bridge. I was like, "I can't do this." I did. I did fine, but it was absolutely, it was really rough. And, and especially when you don't weigh very much and, uh,
hmm
I mean, I do weigh enough, but I mean, like, smaller people, but it was like, "Oh, man." But I think even the big guys, were
Yeah.
struggling. It was
hmm
crazy. But the beauty of it, I mean, there's always something. Nothing's for free,
hmm
but the run, oh, man, it was my
Yeah.
PR run on a 70.3 because the weather was cooler and better, and I was so, I think, relieved to be off the damn bike that I was like,
Yeah.
"Woo," you know? So I had the best run I've ever had, but the bike scared the heck out of me.
Well, then it turned into a bluebird perfect day. I mean, it was for
Yeah,
being so bad that you couldn't have the swim, and it was absolute hell on the bike course. I mean, that's they say about Texas weather, just wait and it'll change, and you kind
it
of hit
did.
all three. And
Yeah,
yeah, it turned into like an absolute bluebird perfect run day. So
it
yeah,
was.
y'all
Was
definitely earned it though, I will say. And
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, I'm excited about that race. I wanna, see what we do with it, and it's definitely a challenge with it being so close to, Dallas-Little Elm,
yeah, hmm
but but I'll just have to have my ducks in a row earlier than usual, but hopefully Dallas-Little Elm, since we now have some groundwork, just even the manuals, I can tweak them rather than have to start them from scratch, stuff like that. Yeah.
So will we see a Nancy Goodnight signature on 70.3 Texas? This race that
Yeah,
has been around for
I
so
have some
long.
ideas. Yeah, I have some
Yeah.
ideas. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
to have fun.
and that's fun because yeah, you know what I would do if I were yeah, and then now you are, so,
Yeah, and
that'll be fun to
I,
implement
I
that.
think that, the Ironman way for a long time was very standardized, and I've told them this, so I'm not afraid to say it out loud, but kind of cookie cutter, because that's what they
Hmm.
wanted people to have the same experience
Yeah,
each time,
right.
consistency, which consistency is good. But it's like with Waco, I wanted Waco to have personality. And I guess I was probably more passionate about that because I live here. But I was like, this race needs to have, you're on the Chisholm Trail for crying out loud where the
Hmm.
cowboys are,
Hmm.
let's get a mechanical
Yeah.
bull out here. And I did. I had a mechanical bull last couple of years. But I feel like we need to make all the villages and the expos more tailored to the venue and the
Yeah.
city and the community and the
Hmm.
personality. And I feel like we need to have more of a festival. Like, don't just come pick up your packet, you know, get one athletic brew from the expo and go home. No, what are you going to do while you're here? In Waco, we have, a lasso contest, and we have Texas two-step lessons, and, you know,
Yeah.
and then we have
Yeah. That's
speakers
fun.
on some fun stuff and some, inspirational stuff so we have a whole nother like stage talk series that goes on, for, that's personality related, that's Texas related. That's kind of our
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
And then, Dallas-Little Elm, we had a great kids triathlon. That was the very first, it's the only kids triathlon, which was super fun, but it's a beach theme because it's on the beach. So, we had some hula hoops out there and fun stuff like that. So yeah, there would be some fun stuff with Galveston. And I mean, it's a beach town, and you got all sorts of stuff that you could have fun with. So I got some ideas. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, definitely look forward to seeing all of that. And I've always enjoyed chatting. And I know I've never gotten an hour with you. So this has been. I feel privileged because I know not many of us get
Well,
that.
you've
It's
been waiting for it for a long time because every time you're like, "Can we do this?" I'm like, "Oh, too, I'm busy, and I'll schedule and then I cancel on you. So I appreciate your patience with me.
I
Yeah,
totally understand. Hey, I want races to go off, so I'm good with it. And I will
yeah,
say, Nancy, you have a fantastic reputation in the space.
sweet. Thank
Athletes know when they do a race that is has any involvement with Nancy Goodnight, it is going to be a good event. And I think you've shared some insights into that with the concern you show for safety and a good experience. And I just want to say that shows, and the athletes see that, recognize it, and I know we're all grateful for it. So thanks again for all you do.
you.
Thanks for your time today. And yeah, I guess get back to work and get those races going.
See, I gotta like work on
Yeah.
these races too. Get one. I'm
Yeah.
glad you're coming to Waco. It'll be fun.
Thanks for listening to the Tribe Triathlon podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a training partner or friend chasing big goals. If you're interested in premium coaching without the premium price, check out tribetriathlon.net to learn more and to get started. And remember, consistency over time is what creates results. Keep showing up, keep doing the work, and we'll see you in the next episode.
The Tribe Triathlon podcast is hosted by Coach John Mayfield and produced for triathletes who want to train smarter, race stronger, and enjoy the journey. Follow Tribe Triathlon on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.